Hello everyone, my name is Jennifer Moleski. This is my YouTube channel. Today I'm here with Michael. Remind me your last name.
Foster. What is your last name?
Moleski.
Moleski. All right. So I'm here with Jennifer Moleski.
You want this?
Yeah.
And he was one of the speakers at the 22 convention and the 21 and the Patriarch convention. First of all, where can people find you in the world of digital on screen?
Sure. This is Foster is my Twitter handle.
Okay.
And then go itsgoodtobeaman.com. And there's some stuff there.
Okay. So those are the places that you can go see him digitally. You represent Christianity very well.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. There are people out there who are not religious.
Okay. We're trying to change that.
Okay, that's part one. Part two, I think everyone here believes very much in family.
Sure.
What is the difference, or would you give different advice, or would you try to let everyone know the importance of family who is secular? Like what's the difference on the approach for the secular people out in the world?
Sure. Well, I mean, so in Christianity, we have what's called divine revelation or special. That's God's word. That's when he speaks specifically. And there's something we call natural revelation, which is something that we just, it's kind of like when your computer comes, when you buy it and take it out of the box, it's got a software on it already, right? So everyone has a knowledge of right and wrong. That's why we feel guilt. Everyone has a knowledge of kind of a basic purpose. And so what I think what's happening in the world with non-religious people are simply folks that are living more in line with their nature, right, with God's design.
The Christian people, the religious people?
No, non-religious people, right? Like, in a sense, everyone's religious. Everyone's made by God, and they'll live out that design. So to be a feminist is to go against design. And that's why it doesn't happen very often in history. We're kind of in a weird moment where we are like raging against design. And so as a Christian, I can look at Greek household codes and how they ran their house. It's very close to how you would run your house as a Christian, and that's because they're just observing the way that God made the world and living in connection with it. They may not give credit to Yahweh, to God, but they still recognize. So there's guys like Jordan Peterson or the guys here that the things they're saying are true. It may be disconnected from their ultimate telos, their ultimate purpose, but they are true in themselves. So what we have in common is that for kids to grow up, to be well-adjusted, they need a mom and they need a dad, they need a place that's safe, they need resources. So that's where we align. Now the purposes of those households and ultimate goals of them are different. For me, it's I want my kids to grow up to glorify God, to live for His purpose, to give Him the glory in every which way that they can through their vocations. And so I do think we end up diverging at points. But we live in a time now where you can think of society as like a canoe that's got holes in it and it's sinking. And there's people in the canoe that you usually would fight with, but at this particular moment, they're like trying to get the water out of the canoe. And so we're like trying to save our society. And so we align with each other because we're kind of co-belligerents. We have the same enemy, the same immediate goals. And so we'll fight about some of this stuff, but we'll do it in a proper order of priority. So.
And have you seen, just in your own personal experience at your church, because you're a pastor.
Correct.
Do you have any personal stories of a woman who was feminist, who came into the church and changed her thinking?
Absolutely, yeah.
And then what was her feelings about that? What was the benefit? And how did her life change?
Sure. Well, I always, when you do these you have wedding showers and you have like a bachelor party. In the church, it's real common for the poor guy to sit down and everyone to give them their advice, right? And I always just tell every guy that every man is a coward and every woman is a feminist. And marriage is working that out, right? And it's a man learning to take responsibility for himself and for others, and for a woman learning to submit, and not merely submit, but to embrace the goodness of her weakness. Like a woman's softer than a man. That's a good thing in the right context. It's a bad thing in other like if you're going to go out and you're trying to rip out a bunch of thorns or whatever, it's not good to have soft skin. If you're holding babies close and nurturing them, and the person in the household that creates the right atmosphere of softness is not a weakness, right? So learning to embrace the things that are unique about you is good. So women do that because feminism is it's illogical. It makes no sense. At its core, feminism is a rejection of the unique things about a woman, right? So for a woman to actualize in feminism, she has to become more masculine. Why? Like, what's wrong with her being feminine? It's good. It's good to be a woman, right?
Well, it also seems like with feminists, they find like I don't want to say the worst parts of masculinity, but kind of. The most violent, the most aggressive, the most loud, the most, I'll take you outside, I can do anything you can do.
Yeah.
A man, when he's good with God and himself, is more stoic and calm and respectful. They don't seem to pick up on that side of masculinity. So it's like they reject all soft, good feminine, and then they take in and fill themselves up with what they think to be masculine, and then they say that masculine is toxic.
Sure.
What a world.
Yeah. Well, feminists are like pacifists in this way. Okay? Like, pacifists get to live in this world, in a safe world, because men like me who aren't pacifists, right? I make it safe for the pacifists. So they're only allowed to be a pacifist because I'm not, because I'm willing to fight enemies. Feminists are able to exist in this world simply because men have made it. Without us, they can't do any of these things. No. Without us, they're in harems. They're getting killed. They're getting raped. Like, it's dangerous men, like that keep the world safe, but we're dangerous in a good way, right?
Sorry to interrupt, but this makes me think. I don't know if any one of my viewers has seen this, but there was a woman, a very bad woman, who was taking a bleach and water mixture, and any guy that like sat on a subway with his just casual with his she would pour bleach on him.
Oh, I saw this. Yes.
Okay, and I was thinking about her because this is a couple of years ago. I was thinking about her recently, and in a Black Lives Matter riot or the world that we live in, how safe would she feel going and pouring bleach on a man then? She's getting her ass knocked out.
That's right.
And that's exactly to your point.
Yep. It's because those guys are showing incredible restraint. You know, this one woman was asking me, like, what's the difference between men and women? And I said, I'll tell you what, you punch me as hard as you can in my face, and I'll punch you as hard as I can in your face. And I was like, obviously we're not going to do it. The difference is I can kill you with a single punch.
Did she understand that?
They don't, that's like an inconvenient truth, right? Well, let's stay in the abstract. Let's stay in the world of words and deception, not in the world of actuality. Right, and we're a woman and men are so different. I always tell people the reason there's a double standard is because there's two sexes, right? It's because they're different, and that's good. There's a general, like, standard to all, which all must submit, but it works out differently. Take fornication. Fornication is a sin. It's terrible. People should stop having sex out of marriage. Notch count. Like, when you brag about that to me, I'm just like, whatever, man. I think it's messing you up. But the way it affects a woman and affects a man are not the same. Right? They don't want to admit this. And so they create a fantasy world, and that's what we're dealing with right now. We allow these people to get into our governments, to get into our schools, to get into our churches, and create curriculums that are built on a foundation of deceptions and lies. So that's where we're at right now. But we can stop it, right?
I think the one good, yes, I hope we can stop it.
Absolutely we can, right? Patriarchy is inevitable, right? If women are weak and the world's full of weak men, like, how exactly can we not take it back? Like, everyone acts like we can't take it back. If people say that, they don't believe in patriarchy. They don't. You see this in these patriarchal movements where, like, patriarchy is good, but we can't overcome the feminine imperative. We can't overcome women. Yeah, we can, right? We absolutely can.
There's a subset of the manosphere called MGTOW, and they go their own way. And I rile them up sometimes. I don't quite know why, but they have many of them have laid the responsibility of changing the laws at my feet.
Sure.
How can I be responsible, or am I responsible? What do I do?
So MGTOW and I don't see eye to eye. I understand how they get where they're at. You know, it's true that the laws are messed up, the system's messed up, but my experience with MGTOW is that they're men with calculators. They're always out trying to figure out the risk. Do you know that this many men and this risk and that? Like, look, being a man is being willing to take risk, being willing to take ground, and not to be scared. And these are guys that have had terrible experiences, right? Like, legit, they got divorced because their wife cheated on them, and they go and tell their pastor, and their pastor said, but what did you do wrong? Well, like, that's where they start. So these guys are kind of, I get it. I get where they're coming from. But no, it's men. If we're the ones, how do women get power? Who gave it to them? It was men, right? Wait, women are weaker than men, but somehow they wrestled the control of government from us? No, men allowed it to happen. And so it's on us to fix it. Now, women, the whole thing to me seems quite ironic that they say, well, you got to be the one to change the laws through voting. And then they're also anti-suffrage, like, you know, so yes, do your part, right? And here's how you do your part, right? You and your husband over here start having babies. You be feminine. You submit to him, right? You let him take the lead. And you guys like raise up a family that shows how ugly and pointless and stupid feminism is, and how awesome it is to be a woman, to be a man, to have children, to build something that'll last forever. That's ground zero of the fight, okay? That's the beachhead that we establish. And then we can change things. Here's the thing with MGTOW, what they have to start to realize is that to change society to be what it should be is not going to happen in a single generation. It's going to take more than a generation. Well, who's going to take up that fight? My kids are, right? And they're not having kids. They're not getting married. Yeah, a lot of them aren't. They've gone their own way and that's that's their you know, that's their prerogative, right? They can do that if they want to. Yeah. But what I would say is that the way I'm going to change it is what I can do now and what my great grandkids can do. And so it's a long fight, right? You know, we have to be willing to hand the ball off to the next guy, and he gets a few more yards, and that's how we're going to do it. So I'd like to understand how exactly, if we're the one that handed it over to them, and everything's given over to the feminine imperative and feminism, and women have to step up, and we won't marry them, and we'll just shame them, and that's going to do it. Like, I just don't see it happening. It seems very self-protective, right? It's like they strike me, some of them, not all of them, they strike me as women who have been like abused by a father or raped or something, right? Like I always tell people, yeah, well, so think of this, my brother, he got chased by a Doberman Pinscher, okay? He's a little boy.
Yeah. Looking at you. Okay.
So then he got chased by a Doberman Pinscher again. And then he was scared of Dobermans forever because he had these two bad experiences, and then he applies that experience to all Dobermans, right? Well, these are people that have had legit.
All Dobermans are like that.
Yeah, yeah. All Dobermans' lives matter, but they've had real bad experiences, and it has kind of traumatized them. And they look at the stats and all that, and they say, "How can I win?" And they use it to justify not going that. And again, like I said, I don't agree with it. That's not the route I'm coming. My problem with MGTOW isn't their decision. It's that they like act like I'm failing somehow by having children and a family, whatever. You know, you're going to be dead, and my kids are going to continue fighting this fight. That's what's going to happen. And so that's how we're going to change it. Yeah, we're going to burn it all down. This can't last, right? The feminists can't sustain this, and men will only put up with it for so long.
I can agree to that.
Yeah.
Good. Well, you heard it here first. We're not all doomed. We can do this together.
That's absolutely true.
I think you have a cold hand, but warm heart.
Yep.
Thank you so much for
the
interview.
Yeah, it was good.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you. Good morning, Will.